Ahoy, Gen Mexers! So excited to be here at the La Paz Marina because today we are talking about life on a boat in Mexico. So I've had a couple of videos about people who had the dream of moving to Mexico and overcame some barriers to get there, and we're on that same theme today. So you're going to see if you have barriers, don't worry because other people have had those same barriers, and I can't imagine that you've had the same barriers that this couple had in terms of the repetition of barriers. So we're going to talk with them, and we are on a boat. So I'm here in the La Paz Marina with Heidi and Aaron, and they got here a few months ago. In December of 2022, and now they're on their boat here in Mexico at 58 and 59 years old, living the dream. So let's meet them, and we'll start kind of early on in the story of when they're still working and living on a boat in San Francisco.
We moved aboard in 2009 when we bought this boat, and it was always our dream to live aboard, to either circumnavigate or to sail the world. And over time, as we got older, we decided Mexico was where we wanted to go. I was working for a Jewish nonprofit, Beth Chaim, in Danville, California. And what were you doing?
I was a union electrician out of Alameda County, local 595. A shout out to 595, brothers.
Very nice.
And you'd been working for?
Well, in 2009, I couldn't do the math at that point, but ended up to say in 2022, I retired at 34 years.
We'd hoped to leave when we were 55, so we're about 5 years, almost 5 years behind that schedule. Along the way, I'd found out that I had an acoustic neuroma, which is a non-cancerous tumor that squeezes the acoustic nerve and has made me go completely deaf in my left ear. I didn't think I'd be able to sail oceans with being deaf, and I was able to get that fixed with a hearing aid and learn to read lips and increase my balance. And then he had a few health challenges.
Yeah, on hers, it wasn't all. The concern at the time with the doctors was the balance issue, being on a boat. Yeah, then the balance. Yeah, and mine were minor compared to yours. Yeah, about 4 years ago, I had a hip replacement. Best thing that ever happened in the world. From many years working in construction and wearing out your joints, it was really nice to get a new one, and it works really good. And yeah. And some sailboat racing. I tore a rotator cuff, totally separated it, and had to have it put back together. And that was 2 years ago, so that was kind of getting into that end of when we really wanted to go. So I had to get through that and fix that.
COVID hit.
Oh, how could we forget about COVID?
Yeah. And
I already have.
We weren't going anywhere. So we were able to do the 2021 Baja with our friends, Scott and Joanne, on their boat Fundango, and we had such an awesome time sailing from San Diego to, we actually came into La Paz, that we started saying, this is it, we got a year, we're doing it. And so we spent a year, 21 to 22, getting the boat ready to go, getting ourselves ready to go. It was hard, there's a lot to do, and you don't really think about, you're leaving the dock for a long time. What do you need? What safety gear? Are you emotionally ready? Are you, there's so much.
So for those of you not in the sailing world, the Baja is a boat tour rally, exactly. So 120 or so sailboats and a couple of motorboats coming from San Diego all the way down to Cabo San Lucas in November time frame. So that's a perfect time to come back down here. November is like perfect time to be in La Paz. A lot of people spending the winter and then heading back around April or May or something like that. So they joined that group. So now let's take the story back to heading back up to the United States and back to San Francisco. This is still where I want to make sure you're retired now during this year. No, not yet retired.
That period of time.
Okay, so still working at that point. So let's go back to maybe the getting rid of the jobs part. That's always fun.
The getting rid of the jobs part, Heidi had been putting a fair amount of pressure on me to retire. And I'm the one that was the conservative at that point, saying, this might not be the time. This is going good. The money coming in another year would be great. She kept pushing and pushing, saying, it's time. And I understood it was time. because the sooner you can do it, the more you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I was at that time 57.
Okay.
But there's always that little bird in there, or my Animal House that on the either side, the devil, devil and the good. So anyway, work was going pretty well, and everything was moving along all right. And I think, hey, let's do another year. Then things at work, you just kind of get tired. 34 years of doing the same thing after a while and meeting deadlines. I think the hardest thing in construction, I spent my whole career just having to hit deadlines, deadline after deadline after deadline. And it started just finally got to me. And then one day, the marina we were living in, we had some crime that was going on. And anyway, they drilled some holes in my gas tank in my work vehicle. And that was the moment. I just this little light bulb went off, and I said, yeah, I think she's right. This is the time. So I went back to work, put my 2 weeks notice in to say I'm retiring, and that was pretty much it. The other funny part of that story was, in the office, I ended up getting COVID. So little did I know that I put my 2 weeks notice in. That was it. I was done.
He retired about a month before we were supposed to go, and so we'd been doing a lot of work throughout the year, but when we actually had the full time to work on it, we started finding more things that need to be done and more things. We were supposed to leave on September 18th, and then that got pushed to September.
Which was Heidi's birthday, so it was...
it was a birthday journey, yep.
Yeah. Well, it was more of a guilt trip to say, you wouldn't deny me leaving on my birthday.
Now it comes out. See yeah.
Now you know.
And we had our Bon Voyage party at our yacht club with all of our friends and family on September 17th. So I really wanted to leave on the 18th, and we weren't ready to go. We had parts that had to come from Australia?
No, Britain. For the motor.
For the motor. So we ended up saying, okay, September 25th. And then we couldn't make that work. And then it was October 3rd. And then people were like, oh, maybe they're not going to go. We were kind of like, oh my God, maybe we're not going to go. And then finally on October 8th, we said, I think we're done. We took October 9th to say our goodbyes. And we literally cut a dock line, not just figuratively, actually cut a dock line because our dock lines had become so taut on our on the cleats on our home berth in Alameda that we couldn't get them off. And so he had to actually get a knife out and cut.
Yeah, the
it's hanging up down, it's hanging down below. And we took off on the morning on October 10th.
Yeah, still working out systems that I had about 2.5 months to probably do a year's worth of work to get it going. And as we were going out the Golden Gate, I'm still programming the navigation and everything else. Hope to God all this is going to work. The good news is we had a quick stop down in Half Moon Bay, which is about a 5 to 6 hour trip down, and we can anchor, then make sure things worked out and kind of settle in for a little bit. But yeah, we left with our hair on fire a little bit.
Just a little.
So that's October 10th, and remember I said November was the time that the Ha-Ha started in San Diego, so we're getting a little bit close to that. Let's continue the story forward.
We headed out the San Francisco Bay under the Golden Gate, hung that left, and started our way going down the coast. We were a few weeks behind, so we didn't stay in places as long as we liked. We needed to get into San Diego by October 31st to leave on the Baja Ha-Ha, with about 118 boats at the time registered.
Good.
And there was, 8 boats from our area. So we had a whole group of friends. Everyone was so excited to be doing this. Like, we had our own posse from Alameda, on the Ha-Ha. And it was just going to be great. And then we got to Catalina. Beautiful Catalina.
Two harbors.
I swam. We went ashore, had wonderful lunch. And then I was walking down some steps, and I turned my ankle.
And she only had one cocktail.
Yes, I did.
So she says.
Yes.
I had 2 spiral fractures. So we made our way into San Diego. I got up to see an orthopedist, and it wasn't broke, but it had to be immobilized and put in a boot. And they said, no, you can't go sailing on the ocean because if you do any further damage, you're going to need surgery. And at that point, we'd be in Mexico. So we had to spend a month in San Diego, and there's a lot of points at that point where we said, screw it, let's go back home. We're done.
Yeah.
We're not going to Mexico. I don't think I want to do this now. I was pretty upset.
Yeah, but at that point, we always, in the back of your mind, you figure out there's going to be a way to make this happen. It's just a setback. And you can fill in Bob's old saying about an adventure. And
One of our favorite people owns a magazine. He just sold it, called Latitudes and Attitudes. His name's Bob Bitchin. He's wearing the hat from the magazine. And his saying is attitude.
The difference between
adventure and ordeal.
Ordeal and adventure. Right.
So
Bob's going to get mad at us at this point. You don't know what we know the heart. We know what it means, Bob.
So, and as his wife says, sometimes it's an adventure and sometimes it is an ordeal, you know. Aaron's dad is 77, and our 10-year-old grandson were able to change the dates. They were our original crew to do the Ha-Ha with us. They came aboard the boat, and on November 23rd, we left San Diego and started down the coast.
So as we came down the coast with my dad and my grandson, which was a great trip to have the family there and sharing the adventure with them was just amazing.
We anchored our whole way down.
Yeah. We made a couple stops in Turtle Bay and Bahia Santa Maria on the way down. Spent a couple nights in each location. Then after that, we had to get into Puerto Los Cabos. That's where they were going to get off and have to fly home, which was a shame because, you know, you wish that they could stay with you the whole time because of the adventures ahead of them. You just want them to be able to experience also. So we got into Puerto Los Cabos, San Jose del Cabo. And of course, berths are kind of hard to come by. The only thing available was a 60-foot slip. So there we are paying for a 60-foot slip. But
we're 42 feet.
And we're 42 feet. But that's part of what you take what you can get. And, you know, sometimes it's good enough or it works. We got into Los Cabos and had a great time for a few days before they had to fly out. Made a couple friends with other people that are also doing the same thing. At that point, we were actually originally going to meet some friends up in the Sea of Cortez up here north, and they changed their plans and decided to head to the mainland down to Mazatlan. So they got a hold of us and said, hey, meet us in Mazatlan for Christmas. So we were on the track to try to get in and find a place to tie up in Mazatlan for Christmas. Heidi can fill in on that because she was handling a lot of the paperwork at that time and the phone calls. And we're hearing back from Mazatlan. And we had been on the waiting list for here in La Paz for quite a while. And finally, we started headed north. Still hadn't heard about Mazatlan or anywhere. We got into Los Frailes. And they have, this time of year, you got the northers that blow. They blow. And normally the pattern was 3 days and 2 days off, 3 days. But it just started this year blowing 4 or 5 days. So long story short, we got stuck in Frailes for 7 days. In that period of time, I think at that point we had finally got heard back from Marina de La Paz. We have a slip available for you for 2 weeks. And we were about ready to say it's time. We hadn't heard from Mazatlan, and then 30 minutes later, after putting a deposit down here in La Paz, El Cid gets a hold of us. Say, hey, we got a slip for you in Mazatlan. We'd already put a deposit down in La Paz. It's just, let's do that. We met up with a couple of friends that were headed that way for a night or here in both Mortos and Frailes, and we waited out the weather for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. 7 days in Frailes and 5 days in Mortos to find weather windows to get up here into La Paz. And that's when we rolled up into La Paz on the 23rd of December. Mm-hmm. And I remember pulling in here and Heidi, her feet hit the dock and the boat was hardly tied up. And the social butterfly she is, she was off into her world. And got here, and then she can tell the story of how great it is around here.
Speaking of being the social butterfly, Heidi was the person that I met to set up this interview, and I just went down to a little breakfast that they do here, the boat people do, and everybody knows about it. It's called Club Crucero. She can talk a little bit more about that. And she's the first person I met there, and we just got chatting, and here we are. So I'm going to have her talk about the community that exists in the boating world, but also specifically maybe in the Mexican boating world and specifically in the Paz Marina boating world.
Well, being back at home, we're very active in our yacht club and our community and family and friends, and we always had parties. Something going on. 5 of the 7 nights out of the week. Coming down the coast, it was no plans, no agenda. You can't have plans or an agenda when you're sailing because you have to do whatever the wind and the tide say. You can't always have a plan. So when we got here, I was I won't say lonely because I love my husband and but I was starving.
Small doses.
After being 24/7.
Well, it goes back. We had a discussion about retirement. Before retirement, we realized that we probably only spent upwards of maybe 3 hours a day together. Yeah. And then now all of a sudden you're 24/7. So
it's true. And when you're sailing 24/7 and there's no one else around, you're together all the time. So I was really looking forward to meeting and talking to other souls on board, or on the dock and all. We got here on the 23rd and found out there was a potluck on Christmas Eve. So
a party for Heidi.
So we went up and to Club Cruceros. Just so many, just really friendly, welcoming people. They answered all our questions. Where can we get laundry done? Where can we get food? Where can we buy beer? Where do we get a really good taco? All the things that we were so excited about doing in Mexico. And that night I said, well, what's everyone doing for New Year's Eve? Well, we usually do a potluck. And I said, oh, I could share that event. So I did. A few weeks later, I got appointed actually to be the social chair for Club Cruceros and I assisted with the beach party. There was a whole committee already in place to do the infamous beach party that raises money for charities here in La Paz. The Super Bowl party, a Valentine's Day party, St. Patrick's Day party, and just recently a wine tasting. So I said to my husband, I said, I found my people. When we first got here, we had 2 weeks, and then Neil, the owner of the marina here, said, hey, the slip, we just had a cancellation. The slip is now open for 3 months. Would you like to, take it for the 3 months? And without even thinking about it, we said, yes, yes. And then we thought about it, and then we sent him another email, said, not only yes, but could we stay for the whole year? And within a couple weeks of being here, we had made the decision that we didn't really want to go cruise all over the place and just touch and go here and there. We really wanted to make this our home, to settle in and make this our community. We'd already found favorite restaurants, our favorite open mic, live music night at Cappuccino's every Tuesday night. We're regulars there now.
Immerse yourself into the community and the culture. Like I said earlier about my work, I spent my whole career chasing deadlines. Be here, be there, be there. And sometimes the cruising world can be that way. I want to get out to this cove or this island or do this and this. So the opportunity to just kind of say, hey, it's time to slow down. Take a deep breath. We can stay here for a year. We don't have to be on the mainland. We don't have to be in French Polynesia. We got a whole lifetime to do that. So let's just sit in La Paz and let's experience this for a while and figure it out. That, to me, it's sliding into retirement.
And it felt good. It felt right. It doesn't mean we won't sit in our marina in our slip the entire time. We'll take trips. We just got back from 5 nights up at Isla Partida. We've been to Espiritu Santo. And we go out in our dinghy all the time. We do sunset rides. We go out and watch the dolphins in the bay. We do a lot of walking in La Paz. We're all over the place. It's but it feels like home. Yeah, it feels like home.
Yeah, and the reason to retire at early, and I'm seeing it right now,
Yeah.
is that you can enjoy it, enjoy life, take it when you can get it, you know, instead of chasing that money.
Yeah, it's kind of you can sleep when you're dead or don't wait too long. So many people tell the story of seeing other people their age pass away and realize that, whoa, that could have been me. I need to stop this whole work thing and start enjoying life. But being that we're on a boat, we should talk more about the boat. So let's talk about, boat stuff.
She is a 1979 Tiana Vancouver 42, hull number 5. We're the second owner of the boat. The original owners were also from Alameda. They had her built in 1979, and they cruised in Taiwan. Yeah, it's a Taiwanese built boat. They cruised her for many, many years. We don't really know when they actually stopped cruising her, but they did that kind of natural transition from cruising the world on a sailboat to the land yacht. Went into the motorhome and started, cruising the United States. So she's a 79. When we bought her, she was pretty just old school and bare, but she was a perfect fit for what we really wanted to do. At the time, we were, had the idea that we were going to cross oceans and circumnavigate. So she was a very good platform for the cruising world and crossing oceans. Very seaworthy, good history, well-built boat. They're built like tanks. So that's kind of how we got started and bought the boat. And then after that, we just started living aboard her.
So tell us about that, the transition from living in a house in San Francisco, and you sell that and part-time.
We went full-time onto the boat. And the idea that what went through my mind in that transition was, think about what you do in your house. Come home from work, you usually sit in your recliner, your chair, that one spot that you have. You've got one spot that you almost always park your butt. A lot of times in today's day and age, it's in front of a TV. You eat there, and then you go to your bedroom, and you sleep in your bed, and you have the bathroom or the head. So you really kind of start seeing what you really do in a house. It's big, it's a lot of room. You have to walk further from that chair to the head or from the chair to the galley than you do on a boat. But living on a boat's very similar. I still have the same spot that I sit at. We got a TV we can watch. The head's there. The galley's over here. The dining room table is within kind of where we sit. It kind of becomes a table turns. It becomes a coffee table, or it's a dinette. So then you kind of justify, okay, I can get it. It's a little smaller, but you know what? It's a very similar life in the everyday, in the house kind of stuff. But then the other life is a little bit different outside, and Heidi can probably fill into.
Like, we don't have a formal dining room, but how often in a home do you really use that formal dining room? Probably not very often. Yeah. It's like you said, you just take out all of the extra space and like shrink it right down, and so everything on a boat as opposed to a house has a purpose. You don't really have a lot of fluffy stuff. I mean, I've got my tchotchkes, my little pretty things that I leave out, but within 10 minutes time, I can clear this boat and have her ready to be turned on her side so that nothing goes flying. We have everything set up that way, and obviously that's not what you do in the house. But it's over the 13 years, we learned what makes it comfortable, what makes everyday life good. What we don't miss a lot of the home stuff, I guess. I used to say, like, we miss unlimited hot water. We have a small hot water tank, so showers are. If one of us wanted to hog all 10 gallons of hot water, we could. But we learned over time, especially with the drought in California, just to be resourceful. We don't waste water. We don't waste electricity. You just become much more cognizant, I think, of how you live. You don't live with a lot of waste. You keep things around you that you use. If you don't use them, you get rid of them.
And then your front yard is the marina, the water. The backyard is right here. It's beautiful. You can throw your dinghy in and take it up to the restaurant for dinner, or there's So there's the trade-offs.
There's trade-offs.
Yeah, you don't really need a lawnmower when this is your yard. Look at this. This is amazing. So let's talk specifics. Let's get a tour of the boat now.
So this is our cockpit. If you look around, there's not a whole lot of boats that have a full enclosure. A lot of boats have an open cockpit, and the cockpit is where we steer the boat from. It's where most of our outdoor gatherings are. It's where we have all of our sundowners. We decided to put a full enclosure on it, and this has netting on it. This helps to allow airflow, but keeps the bugs out. And we also have a full set of we call glass. It's kind of like a plexiglass that goes in, which was great when we were in San Francisco. When it was cold and it was rainy, it became a very private space. So it was like putting an addition onto our house. And it's just a comfortable place for friends to gather, for people to hang out. One more room if we want to have a little separation. I guess that's one of the other things. Living a boat, you don't have a lot of privacy. So,
yeah.
but this is the cockpit. Then down below, we've got our galley. The galley is the kitchen. We have a 3-burner stove, a 3-burner on top, and then we actually have a stove, an oven. The oven, it's small. It's not like a home, but it can cook.
And you have done a full Thanksgiving dinner.
I did.
She has done multiple times a full Thanksgiving dinner, turkey, pies, and everything on board.
And what that entails is getting the measurements again, because I forget, of the oven, and then going into the grocery store, taking the turkey out of the grocers, putting it on the floor and measuring it, and having people look at me like this woman is wacko, so that I know it'll fit in my oven.
You said it, not me.
I love to cook. I've been.
I love to eat.
He does. So we cook everything. I cook from ossobuco to Thai food, Italian food, a lot of tacos and burritos right these days. But I do a lot of cooking down there, and I think the key is just staying organized. Is you have to clean as you go. It's a very small space, but makes some wonderful food.
Full refrigeration, freezer.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really not missing much from what you have at home.
It's not the size.
Other than maybe a microwave. That's the only thing that, we don't have a microwave. A lot of boats do, but we don't.
We just choose not to. It's just we chose to we don't have any electrical appliances other than the refrigerator and then the freezer. It's just one less thing to carry. We have a navigation station, and that's where one of us would sit if we were looking to decide what course we're going to take next, look up weather. It's like an office. It's like a little desk just to sit and to plot out where we're going. We have an aft cabin, which is where guests stay. When guests aren't staying there, the dog takes over the room. And it holds our snorkeling gear, his guitar. It's more of a storage.
It becomes that bonus room.
Yeah.
Where things pile up from time to time until the guests show up.
It's true.
And then we got to find spots for it.
It's true. Then we have our salon. The salon is a living room, a living space. That's what it's called in a boat, salon, or saloon. You can call it either one. And
that's when I want a cocktail.
That's true. We have a bench seating. It's where we not eat our meals if we're not eating up here. It's just where we gather with friends. We have a table that a friend made and Aaron made that went from being a solid table to on a pedestal so that we can sit at it as a dining table, and we can lower it down and turn it around if we want to make it into a cocktail table. That's kind of nice. We have one head, one bathroom with one toilet. We have a holding tank to hold waste when we're here in the marina. When we're far enough offshore, and at Anchorage, when we're far enough ashore, the holding tank can be emptied into the ocean. I know it sounds gross, but if you have ever, and if you haven't, look up what a whale poop looks like. It's a lot more than in our holding tank. When we're here in the marina, there's a service that comes down to us, and they actually pump out our holding tank and dispose of the waste properly. So it has a shower in the head. So you can actually shower and clean the bathroom at the same time. Total bonus. You can also sit on the toilet and shave your legs at the same time. So, and then we have on a boat, it's called a stateroom. We have our bedroom. It's cozy. It's it's funkily shaped into the bow of the boat, so we had special sheets made for it.
Special and custom mattress built. Best thing you ever could do in your life is get a custom mattress. Anybody watching this from a boat, spend the money, get the custom mattress.
It's true.
Worth
we
every
sleep
penny.
really well. And that's it. We live in about 300, 200?
Maybe 300 square feet at the most.
Mm-hmm. And we're going on 14 years.
This is the La Paz Marina that they are moored in. Is that what it's called? Is that right?
Yeah, moored, berthed, yeah.
Berthed, moored.
Okay, good. I got some boat stuff right. So this is a really great marina, really close. I think this is the one that people want to be in because it's right at the end of the Malecone, and it's like everything is super convenient. So I'd like to know more about choosing marinas and finding berths and what things cost.
Well, marinas, we were told probably 5-6 years ago, were half of what they cost now. So just like everything else, costs have gone up. I think the value for your dollar, you definitely get much, much more in Mexico, both in marina service and just in quality of life here in Mexico. Marina de La Paz is just hands down the premier marina, not just because we're here, but there's a waiting list actually to get in right now, and people really want to get in here because it's safe. It was the first marina built in Baja by a couple, Mac and Mary, that were Americans, and now are, of course, longtime full-time residents down here, and their son runs the marina now. It comes with potable water, which you don't really think about water when you're on land. You move here to La Paz, you live on land, you turn on a faucet, you get water. On a boat, it's a little different. We can make our own water via reverse osmosis. We can take salt water and turn it to fresh. You don't really want to do that in a marina because the tides, if you're going to make water, you make it out in the open ocean, the open sea, at the open bay. This is one of the only marinas that provides potable water. We don't just turn on a faucet and get water. So the fact that the marina goes through the process of making the water potable right to our dock, we can put it via hose right into our water tanks. That's pretty huge.
Yeah, down here in Mexico, that is huge. Most of the marinas don't have potable water on the docks. So at that point, you're paying, even when we were in Puerto Los Cabos, had to have a service come out and deliver water. And in the 5-gallon jugs, they came one after another and fill your water tanks. So one of the greatest advantages of this marina is the potable water. Then the other services Heidi fill in on, especially the laundry.
Yeah, the laundry's so nice. Of course, I always did my own laundry at home, and we don't have a washer and dryer on board, so I would have to go up to the laundromat. Well, here we have a wonderful woman that does laundry right at the Ahoy laundromat right at Marina de La Paz. I haven't done laundry since we left Alameda because somebody else does it at far less than both my time and money could be. It's extremely inexpensive to have someone to do your laundry here.
Let's talk prices. So like what about is that laundry?
We usually do probably about 3 loads, and it's 210 pesos.
So a little over $10, $12, something like that.
Right,
Yeah,
for 3 loads, washed, dried, folded, and returned to us in this nice little package. It's wonderful, and it smells great.
Yeah. The berthing costs are very comparable to what we were paying back in the Bay Area in Alameda, at around $1,000 a month. I think, what are we around 900 here?
Yeah.
So it's in the ballpark. So you don't save a whole lot of money on the berthing down here unless you're out at mooring or you can find ways to anchor. But in the marina, it's very similar.
We don't get charged electricity here.
That's true.
The large mega yachts and super yachts, they do pay for electricity because they run generators 24/7. The smaller boats here, we don't have to pay for electricity. And like back in the States, the wintertime, we were paying, upwards of $200 a month for electricity. So that's definitely a savings here. Going out to dinner here, we save food costs in general.
Food costs are unless you go out to a really nice dinner, that can be sometimes comparable, but most of the time, the food cost is about half of what we would probably be paying back in San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, easily half.
Yeah,
and better food too.
All the food's much better, but a cerveza 35 pesos, 75. right? For a beer, and you look on a menu down here, and this is my thing: soda, 35 pesos, cerveza, 35 pesos. Dude, done deal. Give me the cerveza. that same beer cost me $7.50 back in the Bay Area.
Well, we're more cognizant here too about shopping locally. That's something that's really important to us. We didn't think much about it in the States. We would just, even though we lived at the marina, we'd get in the car, drive 2 miles away to the grocery store, large grocery store, Lucky, Safeway, and pick up whatever we wanted. Everything was at your fingertips. Here, it's, especially because we don't have a car, we walk everywhere. We can Uber Didi, if we really want to, but that kind of makes it like an expedition, So we're really careful. Like, Tuesdays and Fridays are farmers markets. And we know that we're going to get all of our organic veggies that day. We're going to get chicken. That'll last us a few meals. We're going to get eggs. We're going to get homemade cheese, tamales, empanadas. We do probably 90% of our shopping at the farmer's market. And then we eat out a few times a week. And then we'll make maybe once a month a run to the supermercado, Chedraui. I like saying that word, Chedraui. And you can get almost everything you want there. So if we really need things, but we don't find ourselves doing things on a whim like that as much. Like, oh, I have to have anchovies for this dish. Instead, we make do. Or go up to the OXXO, which, like at home, we never shopped in a 7-Eleven, and an OXXO is like a 7-Eleven. And here it's like, oh, let's run up to the 7-Eleven or the OXXO and see if we can get a carrot. I just need 1 carrot. Or I need 2 potatoes. And you could almost always find those things there. It's kind of it's an adventure living down here. But you learn to make do. You don't just, there's not as much waste. There's not as much, well, I can have whatever I want. You rely a lot more on what's around you, what's offered around you. We love to go to, the family-owned restaurants. We love Vida Bistro up on the Malecon. The owners, Guillermo and Gabby, are just lovely, lovely people. And we've, in the 6 months that we've been here, we've really come to develop, relationships with the small businesses and the people at the yacht club and the people here on the docks. And
it's so financially, it does make it easier to retire.
It does.
Down here than it does, which also allows you, probably, we go back to why to retire earlier. It makes it easier to retire earlier if you're down here. And there's also the quality of life part of that comes into it. We talked earlier about the age, retiring earlier in age, but the quality of life down here also, the fast pace that we left in the Bay Area to come down here. This to me was like going 30 years in the past into the United States, back to a place that I was comfortable in. The culture around here is what I love. A handshake still means something. There's honesty, there's morals. One of the things that was an eye-opener for me was we had our daughter and grandchildren fly into Cabo and had a shuttle pick them up. And I forget the amount of money, but it was somewhere like 4,500 pesos each way in cash. So I had, 4,500 plus a nice tip in cash, handed it to him. He took it, put it in his pocket, didn't count it. The trust level. And,
we also made that reservation without any deposit. We're like, you're going to go all the way to Cabo, pick our grandkids and our daughter up and drive them here, and you hope that we're going to pay you? Absolutely. Okay. But I mean, it's the amount of trust, the amount of, and, people talk a lot about safety, oh my God, you're going to, and I know you've done, I saw your YouTube video on safety. And people ask us all the time, oh my God, aren't you scared? We're like, no, actually, we're actually less afraid of walking down the street in Mexico than driving on the freeway in California. And it's safe, it's clean, it's friendly. Yeah, for us, we're going to go home for the summer to visit. And we're not taking the boat, we're flying. And then we'll fly back, we're leaving our home here. I'm actually starting to kind of, I'm not going to say dread it, but I'm going to miss. We're really going to miss being here. And so we're like, well, we'll only go for a couple months instead of the whole summer. And everyone's like, you're going to come back in September? It's, oh my God, it's so hot. We're like, yeah, well, we just don't want to be gone that long. Yeah, it's home.
So before we wrap up the video, I want to get a couple more boat things in terms of like what it's like having a boat in Mexico.
We're actually negotiating or kind of wandering our way through that adventure right now because we're just obviously new down here. But at that being said, finding parts and pieces, that can always be a challenge. And thank God to the cruisers community and everybody that's already down here that are always willing to jump in and say, oh yeah, you go up to so-and-so on the corner and Hector can take care of you. Or, you know, Jose down here, he's got to hook up with so-and-so. And
Well,
so there's always ways to get it done. It's not as easy as in the States where it's a little Google search and, okay, boom, in my area I have this and this and this. So it's a little harder.
But also the cruisers directory, the Club Cruceros maintains this service directory that it's got a couple hundred things on it that are all tried and true. So your first thing is to look that up because someone has said this is a great place to get a part, or this is a great place to get your hair cut, or a chiropractor, or a dentist, or anything, especially boat parts though. But like you said, if you don't find it in the directory, you go up for coffee and someone is going to give you their opinion.
Yeah. And then also the language barrier in the beginning. The first season down here, as our Spanish starts getting more proficient, proficient is actually a huge stretch when I say that, but enough to try to survive. So there's always that part of it. But you can find the labor, the people to do the work down here are great. They are always here to help you. Economically, that's a lot better than the States.
Oh, like our diver.
Yeah, getting parts and is harder. That's the big. If you need a new inverter or something, it's going to have to be shipped from the States. It's going to take a while. It's not like back in our area where you can just go down to the chandlery and say, here's a Victron on the shelf. I'll just buy it and go back and it's going to take a little while to get things done, but there again, that's why we're down here. Take a deep breath, and it's good enough, and let's slow things down a little bit.
There are good chandleries here.
Great chandleries,
but they do tend to cater more to fishing and power boats, more pleasure, not say liveaboard boats or especially sailboats. I think. Would you say it's fair?
Yeah, it's fair.
And in the States, if there's not a part on a shelf, that you can get it within 2 days. That's not so here at all. It's very difficult. Sometimes the fastest way to get a part here is to find someone that's going to the States and ask them to bring it back with them on their journey back. You hear a lot of that happening. If it's a significant part that you really need, we've even heard people that got on a plane, flew into Tijuana, walked across the border, went to a West Marine, got what they needed, got back on a plane, and came back because it was the fastest, most efficient way to get something. It's different. I think also Club Cruceros does a morning net every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning on Channel 22, and at the very end there's a segment called Swaps and Trades. And you can say if you're looking for something, I have a spare part of that. I can share that with you. Or, hey, I'm no longer needing this. Is anyone looking for this? So I think down here in Mexico, way more than the States. I don't even know if we ever did in the States. There's a lot more of just exchanging of information and maybe parts, and way more helping each other out. You put something out on the net. Hey, I don't know how to fix this. Oh yeah, I just did that last week. Let me come over. Where are you located? I'll come and check it out. He just went out on a dinghy out to a friend's boat in the Anchorage to help him with something the other day. Back in the States, you would just pick up the phone and call someone. Hey, Boat Electric, come check. Can I make an appointment? Hey, in a heartbeat, someone's there. It's a lot different here. I think, especially the boating community, you rely more on each other and giving references into town.
So talking about flying up to Tijuana, those of you who have followed this channel, you hopefully are knowing what I'm thinking, and that's the video about Kat's iPhone, which is going to be in one of these corners where I had to fly up to Tijuana because she dropped her iPhone into a turtle pond. So yeah, boat parts, iPhones. The good news is Tijuana has a great airport in terms of being able to cross the border. The entrance in the United States is inside the airport. So yeah, but this is just kind of maybe the newest barriers are these little barriers. So these guys overcame kind of some of those big barriers to make it down to Mexico. And now, you know, there's always going to be barriers. And I think the difference is the attitude. What did you say? It was a latitude, attitude, and
attitudes.
But there was another.
The difference between the attitude is the difference between ordeal and adventure.
Okay. Yes. So attitude is the difference between ordeal and adventure. And that is important. You have to have a good, positive attitude if you're going to come to Mexico, because everyone here does, all the locals do. Things sometimes take longer than they're supposed to. And if you're going to be uptight about that, this might not be the country for you. So I've got more videos with other people who have done it because I want to make sure that you feel like you can do it too. And whatever the barriers are, you can overcome them. So check out some more of these videos here with other expats who've made it down, following their footsteps. Hasta luego.